In the last episode, we talked about the muscle lifting protein, the obvious metabolism boosters. Today, we'll talk about the quiet ones, the ones that don't come in a supplement bottle, but the factors that can dramatically speed up or slow down your metabolism.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
Guys, having a faster metabolism helps you in everything, but especially in looking like an athlete, having good muscle tone, definition, feeling good, having the kind of body that takes food and processes it in a way that generates great energy, great physical energy, but is also your mental, your cognitive performance, your energy, your focus, your concentration. Everything good in your life is facilitated by having a fast metabolism. And the good news is your metabolism is not only something that is genetically determined, although that is a factor in it. Your metabolism is largely controlled by your behaviors, the decisions you make, how you move, how you eat, how you recover, how much muscle you carry. In the last episode of the podcast, we talk about some natural ways in terms of building, developing, sustaining good muscle and the things we have to do to make that happen so our bodies can be the most efficient metabolic machines that they can be, even at rest, even doing nothing else, all the rest of the hours of the day you're not in the gym. In this episode, we're going to move into the things that can drive an efficient metabolic engine or like background operating system that maybe aren't talked about as much. We're going to talk about these as the next three factors in having an efficient metabolism. So this is our series on legitimate natural ways to boost metabolism. Let's go to the next one, which is daily movement, or NEAT, NEAT as an acronym to make it easier to remember. When we talk about NEAT, we're talking about net exercise activity thermogenesis, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's fancy terms that describes a host of behaviors, a host of lifestyle behaviors that can literally account for hundreds of calories each day, which can be the difference between sitting versus standing, walking versus driving, fidgeting versus being still. Your body legitimately adapts to movement volume, not just workouts, but the kind of life that you live on average. And this is always true that 1 hour in the gym cannot cover or hide 23 hours of sitting, although it certainly does help. Your metabolism responds to how much you move in aggregate, in total, not just during workouts. Workouts certainly help, but the net activity throughout the day drives a thermogenesis, a burn that is a very important factor in your resting metabolism. So you can have two people, for example, that both come in, do the same workout in the morning. The other one is walking 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. The other person, 2,000 steps, which is for most people a pretty sedentary life or sedentary day. That difference can add up to 1,000 calories in a week for person A versus person B. They did the same workout, but across the week, the sum total of other exercise dramatically impacts their caloric burn. So your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, it can drop dramatically during dieting, stress, fatigue. Here's some practical examples, right? If you want to find ways to drive the sum total of activity that you do during the day, something that I've personally practiced for as long as I can remember and seems to be a lifestyle factor of the most successful, healthy living people that I know. Here's some stuff. You may have heard this before, but try and hear it in a new way with fresh ears, because sometimes you need to hear a thing 100th time for it to land or resonate. So here are some examples. Park farther away. Like when you're going to church, going to the store, park further away. So you have that little extra walk into the place, little extra walk out of the place. After your meals, instead of going directly back into sitting down, go and do a walk. Even if it's just like a lap or two around the house, around the building, do that. Stand during phone calls, or even if possible, if you're on a listen-only Zoom with work, walk during that time. Consider getting a standing desk. Do a short movement break every hour in between your calls, in between your meetings. Knock out some push-ups. It's the most metabolically active people are not just getting in more incidental exercise, they're sitting less. And as we sometimes say in the fitness space, sitting is the new smoking. Don't recommend it. So let's talk about after NEAT. Let's talk about the next silent factor that drives metabolism, and that is sleep. Yes, sleep. Sleep more. Sleeping can boost your metabolism in an important way. If you don't get good sleep, if you get poor sleep, that reduces your insulin sensitivity, the opposite of having enough protein we talked about in the last episode. It raises your hunger hormones, which drives more eating in general, including eating beyond what you actually need. It increases muscle breakdown. Sleep deprivation tells your body that's in a survival state, and your body then shifts into holding as much body fat as possible, turning food into fat at a higher level, because that promotes your ability to survive through a famine state. We don't live in a world with an actual famine state right now, but your body will react as if it does if you are chronically sleep deprived. When you don't sleep, your body acts like food is scarce, stress is high, it slows everything down. So less sleep slows metabolism. You have worse recovery from workouts, less muscle retention. Poor sleep drives the wrong kind of food cravings. It lowers the activity thermogenesis effect that we talked about earlier. Even 1 to 2 nights of bad sleep can disrupt or impact your metabolism. So even if you're training hard, eating well, and still struggling, sometimes sleep is the missing piece. Here are some practical guidelines, and this is very evidence-based. When I was in medical school, the impact of sleep on motor performance and motor learning was a very key theme of the work that I did. And so I am exceptionally passionate on this topic. The data shows that 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what almost everybody requires in order to actually function at a acceptable or exceptional level on a metabolic frame. So also having consistent wake and sleep times can happen. That can matter more than perfection. Having a dedicated bedtime, dedicated wake time that provides you that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, including on weekends, can be one of the major factors in how well your body responds to doing all the other things right. I sometimes describe sleep as one thing that affects everything, and that makes a massive difference in your metabolism. So the first thing was the daily movement net, or NEAT. Second was sleep. Third, stress management. Guys, you've heard this before. I'm going to say it again. Let this land with fresh ears. Chronic stress elevates your cortisol levels, and high cortisol increases fat storage. It breaks down muscle. It suppresses your thyroid output, because your body cannot always neatly distinguish between emotional stress, under eating, overtraining. Like, from your body's perspective, stress is stress. And if it's not positive stress, if it's not favorable stress, the kind of stress you get from doing a workout, doing a cold plunge, your stressed body won't burn fuel as efficiently as it otherwise would. High stress keeps you in conserve body fat mode or lose muscle mass mode. Muscle loss plus fatigue, you get that lower metabolic rate. This can, like, having high stress can also negatively impact your sleep and your daily activity indirectly. So think of it this way: stress management is not a luxury, It's a mission critical part of your fitness plan. So, in order to reduce stress on average, to get the net effects of everything we talked about before, consider for some people going outside, being outdoors, going on a walk outdoors, seeing sunlight, breathing fresh air is one of the things that can naturally help them to reduce the stress of everyday life. Controlled breathing. Maybe consider downloading the Headspace app and beginning a breathwork practice or a meditative practice. I started this many years ago, and it's been wonderful for me in a whole host of areas of life. Also having some lower intensity training days, which if you're coming to CrossFit, we'll have those built in for you. And just very practically, saying no, being authentically and completely yourself, being willing to say no to things, to outings and people and work responsibilities that do not align, that are not congruent with your highest, best self, that don't align with your highest values, being willing to say no to almost everything. If you've followed me for any space of time, you know that one of my Greg-isms is that in order to live the life where you can prioritize the things that are most important, you have to say no to almost everything, because almost everything is nonsense. Almost everything is not that important. You have to learn the skill of saying no to almost everything so you can preserve your energy for things that matter the most and keep unnecessary stress out of your life. So here's my wrap up. If your metabolism feels stuck, zoom out. Are you moving enough outside of the gym? Are you sleeping enough to recover? Are you constantly stressed while trying to push harder? Consider these factors. In our next episode, we'll talk about hydration, calorie intake, intensity, because sometimes the reason metabolism slows down is because you're actually trying too hard. And we'll talk about it in the next one. I'll see you guys then.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more useful tools and guidance, go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com and feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. See you in the next episode.